So, hey everyone, it's Bryan here with Computer Solutions. I am the Director of Customer Success for North Texas, and I'm really excited today to talk with David McCall, who's from our cybersecurity practice. And so before we get started, a little introduction about Computer Solutions. We're a 40-year-old technology integrator based out of San Antonio, Texas. We've got a lot of experience in all facets of advanced technology, including Cisco, HP, SentinelOne, Arctic Wolf, and many of the other leading manufacturers out there. And so my intention for these conversations is to introduce you to some of our great resources that we have at Computer Solutions that help deliver. At Computer Solutions, we don't have a very, what I'll call sexy value proposition. Really what it boils down to is that we are big enough to deliver, but small enough to care. And as cheesy as that might sound, what it means is where the rubber hits the road, I should say, is that we have great resources and we have a high delivery customer satisfaction rate, right? And so I think something like our top 10 to 15 clients that we have have been with us over 10 years. And that's because we deliver well, and they find a lot of value in how we deliver. A lot of that is what we call outcome-based, where we kind of take what our customers are looking for and apply technology to that business issue to drive a true outcome for the customers, for them. And I think that's why they really like it. And so today I wanted to talk cybersecurity. It's something that all of us have to deal with. It's something that all of us have to address. And like I said, I have David McCall. So David, thanks for joining us today. I really appreciate it. You've been around the block a little while, so I'll let you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about yourself and how you came to Computer Solutions, and then what your role is exactly with Computer Solutions.
No, thanks, Bryan. Thanks for having me. So my name is David McCall. I'm the cybersecurity product manager at Computer Solutions. I've been at Computer Solutions for right at 12 years.
Okay.
So got there as a project manager, and with my background in product management and project management, it was a good fit. Technology is evolving at that time. From my background, it was a good fit. Culture here is fantastic. As you know, we pride ourselves on that and bringing our customers into that culture. You mentioned it, we care. And so we're certainly services oriented, solutions oriented. But my first 10 years were in the project management office. The last 5 leading the project management office. So a lot of great experience there, but around last year, the beginning of last year, we had some opportunities that came up. And as you can imagine, being a project manager and really risk-based oriented project manager, tracking deployments, project risk management over time, you gather a lot of information, you see a lot of things, and as the market evolves, as the technology evolves, you start to say, I want to take what I've learned over the years and apply it in a different area. And the cybersecurity practices, we started opening that up, really provided that avenue to do so. So the process-oriented part is really where I came to grasp the product and our offering of cybersecurity, because it's overlooked. Obviously, there's the technology side, and there's a lot of great solutions there. But half of it is process-oriented, framework-oriented, which map really well to multiple solutions. And I think that is our real value proposition there, is because we take that approach and look for customized solutions for our customers. So
that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah, and I think I agree with you. I think you mentioned a word that I wrote down here, culture, right? And I think for the last 7, fingers crossed, 8 years, Computer Solutions has been named one of the best places, the best place to work, right, in San Antonio. And I think why that's important, not only to us as employees of Computer Solutions, but to customers, is that culture is one of really enjoying what we do and why we do it, and that comes through in how we deliver to our customer base out there. Would you agree, David? Anything you can expound on there?
Yeah, 100%. So it's the sustainability there, the continuation of the delivery. I think adds to that. Positivity feeds positivity. So I think over that time, that culture has bred just a work environment that's, not only result oriented, but it's a fun place to work. People who are there are eager to get or be there and eager to deliver their solutions to customers with that passion. So absolutely, I think that and one more point there is those things don't happen by accident. And you can imagine the leadership there across the board, HR department, you name it, every department has a focus and are committed to that focus and committed to that delivery and do it with a positive spin. So, yeah, I've stayed there for 12 years, also not by accident. That's a conscious decision to that you find something you like and you find a culture that you like. People don't want to leave that. So
it's huge.
And our customers too. Yeah. And we've had that same customer base. Sorry to interrupt. Had that same customer base for that continued relationship over the 40 years that we've been in existence. We've maintained that strong customer base. And so that again, I also think those things don't just aren't happenstance.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm fairly new to the team. I'm about 6 months into my tenure here with Computer Solutions, but I hope to get Carolyn on here to talk to her a little bit about that. And I only bring up Carolyn because, as a father to two daughters, I always get a kick out of her journey in starting Computer Solutions back in the late 70s. As a woman, I know that things have not always been equitable on that side, but I can only imagine in the late 70s, her to venture out, make an effort to get into technology, and then be successful at it. At the advent of Computer Systems is really cool. And like I said, as somebody who's always been a big fan of women, in particular, being a father of two daughters, that's an amazing story. But I digress. That's for another day. But today I wanted to talk about something. You actually wrote a really interesting blog that, David, if we can, I'll post down in the comments below for those of us who want to read it. But you wrote a really interesting blog on something that I wanted to just have a quick conversation on. And it pertained to EDR, MDR, and some of those acronyms, right? You mentioned a few seconds ago about the dearth of tool sets out there, right? And what customers are having to navigate in order to stay in front of these things. And so from the data protection market just keeps growing. The bad guys continue to evolve as far as the threats they can go out there. And so one of the more confusing acronyms, I think, is what is EDR and what is EDR? So what I'll start off with is what is EDR? How did it come to be? And why is it something that most customers, you think, and tell me if I'm wrong, but you think must have as kind of a baseline in their tool set?
Yeah, it's a really interesting story. It's an interesting timeline, and to look back and watch this evolve from whatever perspective you're looking at. We had and you saw a lot of this too in the consumer market with the old antiviruses. You saw a lot of Norton. You saw a lot of McAfee out there. Trend Micro. You saw some of these were specific to enterprise, but we saw a lot of that in the consumer market. And these were great for the time, but they didn't scale too well. I think we can probably all agree that the bog down in the systems, that you had a different customer experience with the solutions that were out there and how they impacted the systems that we were working on, usually a computer, laptop, or a desktop computer, and how they impacted our work performance. And we saw that in the pre-2010s, and in the early 2010s, you started to see an evolution of the EDR and the endpoint detection and response. And really what that is the EDR focuses on detecting, investigating, responding to threats and versus just a regular antivirus. So there's a response mechanism in there that is a little is different than the traditional antivirus. And you also saw a lot more efficiency and effectiveness in how the overall impact to usage and how we can integrate, how we can work in our system was a much better experience with the EDR solutions a lot of the time. So these things started to evolve, and we started to focus on, EDR started to focus on behavior rather than just signatures. And so you started to see an evolution there in a much more efficient system, and many more players came into the market as cybersecurity became a hot topic there. So that evolution started in the early 2010s, and that evolved through the 2010s. So in the mid 2010s, you started to see more threat detection capabilities, behavior analytics was starting to really blossom. As we started to see more competition in the market, obviously that evolved and advanced, and machine learning. So you started to see all of this become, and it's just become a wave. And you've seen it as the EDR market evolves. We start to see that competition swell, and that just brings more advanced technologies, which is good for all of us. And so, you start to see some of the common elements, the isolation, when things are isolated, systems are isolated due to a threat, and the more advanced threat detection at that point you start to see in the mid 2010s. So I think. Yeah. So, and then it evolved again later in the later 2010s as well. So you started, your forensics capability started to evolve better as well, more incident response. And again, as the systems were learning and able to isolate the machines at a much more efficient rate with much less false positives, I think you started to see the cleaner aspect of delivery there on the MDR or the EDR side. Excuse me.
That's awesome. Yeah, thanks for that explanation, David. I think you dated us a little bit there, because I certainly remember the names like McAfee and Trend and Norton. Right. I remember early in my career at Cisco, which was a leader early on in cybersecurity. I figured a tool set was a firewall and maybe an email filter, right? And then doing something with that signatures like a McAfee or a Norton or a Trend would be a good way to go from there. But I definitely agree. It's gotten pretty complicated. Before we move on, I know we have a very, very strong partnership with some EDR providers out there, including SentinelOne. Give us a blurb on your thoughts on what SentinelOne does so well, and why we made the decision to move forward with them as one of our leading providers on the EDR side.
Yeah, and they actually have a really neat approach. I think they possibly fall into the endpoint prevention as much as just detection. So I think SentinelOne is a great story in that they've really advanced, where an EDR solution will detect a threat that's already penetrated what endpoint protection would not allow that to happen in the first place. So I think SentinelOne is actually more along the lines of an EPP. But they also do, but they're going to isolate, they're going to bring in their AI, which is phenomenal. I think their solution is that one of the benefits there, they have a lot of really neat benefits to their product. And we can certainly talk to that, but some of the differentiators with them, not only are they a great partner, just right off the bat, super easy to work with, and with a extremely sophisticated tool. I think one of the things that really separate them out is their support, their low-cost agent. So if you see their agents are relatively low resource expense, And ultimately, they've got a really neat feature that allows rollback capabilities. So depending on the service that the level that you get from them, and your agreement there, you have some really advanced capabilities, and what a great team to work with.
Yeah, absolutely. And you brought up another acronym, right? AI, which everybody's talking about. And I know that Sentinel One has introduced their new feature, their Purple AI feature, but maybe we'll save that for another conversation. Sure. But yeah, that's a great description. Thank you for that, David. And so, in the spirit of acronyms, another one that I'm hearing now is MDR, which is very similar to EDR. Is it the same thing?
Yeah, it's a great question, and that comes up so much. And so, really, with an MDR, it's as the managed detection and response. Really, the separator there is you're getting, like anything managed, you're getting someone to take that on for you. Where an EDR is going to alert you, Bryan, as a IT operations manager, if you were in that role, to go do something. And there really it's on that person within the organization to go do something, where an MDR allows for somebody else to take that analysis and work that through their own SOC. And again, that's kind of the differentiator there is the MDR typically has a managed SOC behind it, Security Operations Center, and they're going to perform that analysis, and then at that point make some determinations on what to do next. What that really does for the customer is allows, since that responsibility is pushed off to an experienced team, that allows you to go focus on other things until what's determined as the real threat. Now it's time to act.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I know a term that's out there that I've seen a lot, and it can be really a dangerous thing, is alert fatigue, right? So many things are coming at our customers, so many attacks, and not all of them need an action, right? But it's almost a play of the bad guys to send so many threats, so many infiltrations at you that you almost give up. And so having that, I'll use an AI term I heard last week because I'm all about the new buzzwords, human in loop, right? Having a human that you can lean on to help decipher, this is what I should do, this is the one I should act on, can probably save time, and time is everything in this ongoing battle we're having. And so that's a great discussion. David, I'm a marketing guy, and I love the letter X. Right. And if I was leading a marketing team, I'd put X in everything I could. Right. I think Elon Musk is just like me naming Twitter X. But my segue is into XDR, another acronym that we're hearing now. And so you've done a great job explaining what EDR is. I think I have a good grasp on MDR now. So tell me about XDR. Is it more than just a marketer saying, hey, let's put an X in there and we'll get more customers to talk to us about it? What is XDR?
Yeah, it is. And I think it's funny you said that. It's so sometimes it seems like it's a marketer. I think if you could agree that we often get different, depending on where you go and look for a definition, you may get if you go look 5 places, you may get 5 different definitions. But absolutely. So the phrase was actually coined in 2018 in a Palo Alto in a keynote. And interesting enough, so it was really for a more comprehensive and integrated approach to threat detection and response across a security landscape and ecosystem. So it's relatively new. If you're going to say it's considered holistic in the scope of what is covered. And the way it's covered. Now, I will mention and I think part of why there are multiple definitions, it is relatively new. You have just like everybody, the vendor and partner landscape rushed to EDR rush to MDR and start developing that space, we're starting to see that same thing in XDR. So you see some different definitions based off the different approaches, but one of those key definitions and differentiators is there is a managed XDR versus just an XDR that would really focus and deliver a more holistic and integrated approach. And I'll talk to that here in a second, to response, analysis, response, all of that. So the managed is going to give you the SOC. The non-managed would be just as traditional XDR. So, and that's a key component, I think, because you're going to get that question quite a bit. So, but also, if you consider what some of you look at the telemetry that's being gathered and analyzed, as the sophistication, the AI is involved, you start to look at the advanced technologies that are addressing this. You're starting to see some really sophisticated systems out there and solutions, which is great, because like you said earlier, the bad guys are getting extremely sophisticated. They're using AI. We need the good guys need the same approach. And so it's, get help somewhere. And this is a great way to do it, because when you think about the EDR solution, you're thinking typically, I think I would think you would agree, if you're talking to your customers, generally we're thinking endpoints, servers, not as much network east-west traffic analysis. So you're looking at advanced EDR plus network detection and response, which is another acronym.
Sure.
We can put X in front of that. But yeah, so what it's doing is gathering network detection and response, endpoint detection and response, and not only just in one area. You could bring in IoT, you could bring in your cloud environment, take all of that and analyze it for a more holistic approach. And that's the goal of XDR. And so, yeah, you do have Gartner definitions, you'd have definitions here and there, but ultimately that's what it boils down to. So generally, I think we can simplify it to those means.
Yeah, that makes sense. So really you're going beyond the endpoint into what you said was the network side of things, and even into the cloud and IoT side, for our healthcare and energy customers that have devices out in the field, or, lab devices, et cetera, getting a picture at what might be going on behind once if the bad guys get beyond the endpoint is probably valuable. And then you mentioned that a lot of our partners are going into the managed XDR area, which obviously gives them the value of having somebody to decipher and translate a lot of the threats that they're seeing. So that's a great explanation, David. And so I think you've given me at least a good understanding of the differences in those acronyms. There's only about 5,000 more to go. So we've got to do this again for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
I did have two more questions for you.
Yeah, sure.
Kind of a little bit of fun one. What would you say is your spirit animal, David?
Oh, well, that's a great question, because I don't know how I'd answer that. I think, if I'm looking in, depending on how you look at that, if I'm going strictly off of birth month, then I'm a Scorpio, so that's the snake, and I'm not sure that represents. I hope that doesn't represent me well. So, but there are other different spirit animals, and I think mine, if I'm not mistaken, is I think it's not the hawk. I'm going to have to go back and look at that one. I'm going to have to go back and look. Frankly, I don't know that I've really. So I just was introduced to that, believe it or not, and when I watched that movie Coco with my kids,
Okay.
and saw the different spirit animals. So I'm going to have to get back with you on that one.
It's a fun question, right? Because
Yeah, it is.
it puts you in a place where whatever your answer is, it's really not about the answer. It's about, kind of putting you a little bit uneasy and seeing where you come. But I think you did a good job. And I will say, I think the snake gets a bad rap. I think the snake is actually a pretty strong animal especially from a resilience standpoint. They've made it through ages, and I think it's cybersecurity, right? It might be something good to lean on a little bit, but I certainly understand the stigma, and as much as I respect snakes, I surely wouldn't want to have one around me right now. So
it does get a bad rap for sure.
Hey, and last thing, David, I know a lot of our customers take advantage of our cybersecurity assessments. They're a low-cost option that really gives a great picture of what's going on. And so before, I don't want to steal your thunder, can you give us just a blurb on what the cybersecurity assessment is and why it might be of value to some of our clients?
No, 100%. And as you know, that's one of our many cybersecurity offerings. But the assessment, I think, is, especially for what I think is a modest fee for what is delivered. So our cybersecurity assessment is really based on frameworks. So the cybersecurity frameworks that are out there, and I mentioned this earlier, but being process oriented, we look at the frameworks as the security safeguards that govern specific industry or verticals. So, PCI for payment systems, and you can go on down the line. HIPAA, we use that and this. And so we take that approach, but where we really try to differentiate ourselves there is customizing that to our client, because I think, in that more the developed relationship, we're really looking out for the clients who are maybe focused on one specific framework, and that's great. If you have if I'm running a business and I'm considering that, let's just say I'm a K-12 school district, and I'm really focused on that Texas cybersecurity framework, which you should be. That's great.
Sure.
We may overlook some of the other frameworks that are relevant to our business. So if I'm running a payment system, I probably should be looking at PCI as well. And although there's some overlap, there are also some outliers. And so our assessment approach really takes that into consideration and boils it down to a common set of questions and observations to get findings that will be hopefully beneficial. And generally what we see is that our customers are generally very aware of what their threats and risks are, and working to address those over a roadmap. But there are oftentimes, more times than not, that we help them find the hidden cracks. And so that's what we're about, looking out for them. And I think the other differentiator there, Bryan, is that, we are not looking out just for the here and now. It's easy to go, okay, here's what the framework's saying to do today. Well, as oftentimes go, and especially with procurement cycles, what's here today is often stale, in 6 months to a year. So what we're really looking to do is work with our customers along those relevant frameworks to ensure that we're recognizing the trends and we're seeing where those trends are headed. We're anticipating what those requirements are going to be, and we're working towards that along with their procurement cycles to get them ready for the next round. Because you probably hear it, everything was leading towards these zero trust thing, and we want to make sure we're ahead of that with them for all facets of those acronyms that you mentioned earlier, and we're steering them in the right direction.
Yeah, it sounds like it's a great way to kind of set a map for the journey, right? It's a big journey, and depending on what industry you're in, the size of your organization, the public sector /SLED initiative that you have to address, having a good map before you start is always the best way to go. And so that's a great plug, and I appreciate you bringing that up, David, because it is something that a lot of our clients take advantage of at any point in their journey, right? But I think to begin it is a good way to start. And so, David, that's all I had today. I really appreciate you spending just a few minutes with me explaining EDR, MDR, and XDR, and I'll let you go for the afternoon. For the next one, when we talk about AI or whatever we decide to talk to, I'll ask you that spirit animal question again. Think about that one a little bit. Maybe watch Ponyo again with the kids, and we'll go from there. But really appreciate your time today. Thanks a lot.
Bryan, thanks for having me. It's good talking to you.
All right, buddy. Have a great day.